Title of this video is Where Are My Students? So this is analyzing, the difficulties, the challenges of establishing a martial arts school with longtime students that, have been training for over 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and longer. Running the school for about 10 years now, and I see a lot of times I would take it kind of personal and say that it's something to do with me or my teachings and things like that, but I've come to realize that I'm not the one to blame. It's essentially the way the culture has changed. And if you look at how you know how people are today compared to how they used to be in the past, even look at the NBA. Look at all these players that are switching teams year after year. Look at how many teams Kevin Durant has been in. For example, he started as in OKC, then he went to the Warriors, and now he's going to Brooklyn Nets. You look at LeBron James and his career. Started off in Cleveland, went to Miami, went back to Cleveland, now he's in LA. You look at Kyrie Irving, Cleveland, Boston, and now Brooklyn Nets. You look at Kawhi Leonard, Spurs, and then Toronto, and then now he's going to, what team did he go to? He's going to another team with Paul George. So you see it in the NBA and how the players, they're like, well, we're not gonna commit to any team, but we're gonna take control and power of our own careers, and we're gonna decide where we want to go. We're gonna ask for what money that we want, and there's basically no loyalty to any teams nowadays. You look at employment. I mean, if you ask your friends or ask the people around you, like, how long have you been working at your job? A lot of people have been switching jobs year after year, or they don't even stay at one job for longer than 5 years. So the culture has changed in how people don't work in one job for too long. My mother, for example, mentioned just the other week that she stayed at her job for over 40 years and she's still working there. My father stayed at his job for over 40 years and he retired there. I'm training with somebody who's been working at the same job for over 26 years. My parents have lived at the same home for over 40 years. Like, these are things, these are values, these are traditions that are uncommon in this society, in this culture. And in Kung Fu, in Gung Fu, we're trying to teach a different culture, a different value. So I'm trying to teach longevity, teaching commitment, teaching loyalty, teaching a lifestyle, training in Kung Fu for your whole life, not just for a period of time. But this Kung Fu school is located in Chicago, in America, in this culture that changes a lot. So the changing nature of the people around and how they are as a business owner, as a school owner, you have to learn to adapt to these individuals. Otherwise, you will not survive. If you don't adapt, then you're gonna die off. So the school has to adapt. If the school doesn't adapt, then the school wouldn't be in existence, and it's not going to be able to help anybody. So it's better to help somebody for 1 year or 2 years or even 1 month or 3 months than to not help anybody at all. And I've come to terms to see what's going on, and I accept it, and you work with what you have. You know, another thing is you look at the way life is structured. The government has structured our schooling system. They don't allow anybody to stay at the same school for too long. They force each person to switch schools and to switch teachers. So they don't allow students to build up any type of close bond or an attachment with any teachers or any schools. So we're all forced into the school system. You have to go to school. If you tried to homeschool, they would make it very difficult on you. So nearly everybody has to go to school. And you notice, there's the elementary school, there's the middle school, there's junior high, there's high school, and then there's college. Typically, every school, you're going to be there for about 3 years, 4 years, and then you got to move on to the next. And even in college, there's the associates for 2 years, bachelor's for 4, master's for 6, PhD for 8. People are switching from school to school to school. So there is no longevity in that system either. And that is what has been promoted to the people since they were born. And that's what's been trained into their psyche, where it is something that is abnormal for anybody to stay in one school for their whole life, or for 10 years, or even 5 years. So you've already trained the people to be at one location, to learn from some place, and then move on to the next. Alright, so people's minds are already trained for something like that. Now, I also am located in a rough neighborhood in Chicago where everywhere that surrounded my school are all rental properties. Like within a 3-mile radius of my school is all rental properties. Studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and it's close to the train station. It's close to downtown Chicago. It's close to Loyola University, Northwestern University. So it's in a high traffic area, but at the same time, everybody in that area, majority of those people in that area are not there for long term. They're there for short term. They could be there for school. They could be there for a temporary job, not something where it's their career. So the people around the school are, the energy that surrounds the school is about movement. It's not about people that are settling down, basically. This is not like far off into the suburbs, away from the city, where you're surrounded by homes, single family homes, where people are moving there and staying for like over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I'm surrounded by apartment buildings. So that's another factor. If my school is located in an area where you're surrounded by condominiums and single-family homes, that is a sign of more stability, longevity. But it's not. It's located in an area where there's a lot of people passing through, high traffic, but rental properties. People are signing leases that are lasting 1 year. So after that 1 year is up, they make a determination. Do I want to live somewhere else or stay? But if you're surrounded by homes where people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a home, and in order to move, they're going to have to sell that home, it's going to make it much more difficult for them to move. And therefore, when you retain students that are stable in their lives, then more than likely that will equate to stability in their training. But what's happening is you're training students that are uncertain about their futures. They're not stable in their lives just yet. They're still building upon that stability. They don't know where they want to work. They don't know what their passions are. They don't know if they want to go back to school or if they want to continue to work. They don't know where they want to live. So they're in the process of all these changing decisions about their future. And as a result, that results in instability in their training. And it's inevitable that in this location and in a grander scale, in this culture, people are not certain of what they want to do with their lives. And because of that uncertainty, the martial arts training is a reflection of that. So ideally, it would be best to have everybody stay long-term, stay committed, keep training for the rest of their lives. But we don't live in an ideal world. So people that are unstable with their jobs, when they lose their job, they can no longer pay for the training. People also decide to switch jobs. So once they decide to switch jobs, then that could affect their training, where it throws off their schedule, or they just can't make it anymore, or they switch jobs and that requires them to move, and then when they move, they're no longer able to train because the training facility is too far of a hike. So that has happened quite often. A lot of people have left because they've moved. And that is something that's completely outside of my control. It's one thing of delivering the best training possible, the best that they could ever find. But it's another thing of requesting for somebody to stay where they're living. When people make decisions that they want to move to a different location, the school cannot ask for them to put them into consideration when they make that decision. That's a lot to ask, basically, of a student. But many times that is the case. People move away people lose their job. People are struggling financially. And that makes it more difficult to retain students for the long term. So with that in mind, you come to the realization that majority of students will stay a year, 2 years, a few months, 3 years, but very few will stay 5 years or more. And with that in mind, with the way that I see Kung Fu and martial arts, where it's a lifestyle, where it's not something where you just go train for 4 years and then you come out, with a degree. I see it as a continuous training for life. It's just inevitable that over and over and over again, you will be working on the basics of training. Because as you train somebody for 2 years and then they leave, a new person comes in and you gotta start all over. Back to the basics. You train them for 3 years and then they leave, then you start over. Back to the basics. So continuously, year after year, you're working on the basics. And you come to terms with that, you come to learn to accept that, and you come to learn to enjoy that, and to be thankful for that. But one thing though, with the YouTube channel, has allowed me to connect with people all over the world for the long term. There have been many people that's emailed me and messaged me and even talked to me on the telephone to say, hey, I've been watching you, for 8 years now, 9 years now, 6 years now. Because no matter where people move, as long as they have access to the internet, which is pretty much anywhere in the world, or at least anywhere in America, they can stay connected to this school in some way. And that's through watching. And you notice also with athletes in these sports, football, basketball, boxing, even this last boxing match with Pacquiao and Thurman, they filled up the arena in Las Vegas, and I think they said there's over 15,000 people in there. So over 15,000 people in the arena watching, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, watching all over the world. But only 2 people are actually boxing. So what I'm saying is, it's a lot easier to get people to watch. Thousands, if not millions of people to watch. But it's a lot more difficult to get people to actually do. To actually box themselves, or play basketball themselves, or football themselves, or whatever sport themselves. To get out there and move. And essentially the school that I have, you're not asking them to watch. You're asking them to get involved and to do. To put effort. And on top of that, you're asking them to pay money to do so, and not a very little money. You're asking them for a good amount of money. More money than what gyms would ask for. And sometimes you're even asking them to participate in videos that are posted publicly for others to watch. So there's a lot to ask for people. Money, effort in doing, and in addition to feeling comfortable with allowing their training to go public for others to see their process of development. So it's going to be a lot more difficult to find those people to get involved than it is to just have people watch a video. So that's the situation. You know, YouTube is successful because all you have to do is encourage people to watch. They don't even have to pay. They don't have to pay. They don't have to do. You're not telling them that they have to do jumping jacks, push-ups, sit-ups, squats, that they have to participate in any challenges or to spar or, you know, break any boards. They don't have to do anything. You're not asking them for money. They don't have to pay any money. All you're doing is telling them, hey, you know, just watch and subscribe. And they don't even have to subscribe. So the YouTube in the martial arts can develop to be pretty successful because that's all you're asking them to do. And now it's up to you to try to entertain them and educate them at the same time. And you notice with Bruce Lee, he stopped teaching and went into acting. Because I think he began to realize that he's not going to make much money teaching because there's just not enough students to teach in order to make the money that he deserves. It's going to be much more difficult to encourage people to sign up to a martial arts class than it is to be in, you know, to encourage people to just watch a movie that he started. So he shut down all his schools, he went into acting and starred in a lot of movies. Not a lot, but starred in some movies, and people loved his movies. People loved his movies from all over the world. People would pay to watch his movies. And when you have thousands, if not millions of people that are willing to just pay $1, $2 to watch a movie, that's how he made a living. By encouraging people to watch. You're not going to make much money by encouraging people to try to do. So that's what happens. That's the situation. You know, in a Kung Fu school, you're trying to encourage people to live the lifestyle of the martial arts. You know, that this is a lifelong commitment, not a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, or even 10-year commitment, but a lifelong commitment towards your personal growth and development. And the situation is, sometimes people end up moving away. Sometimes people run out of money. And yes, there are times when the relationship is no longer as strong. And usually that happens because people have lost their motivation to train for whatever reason. And yes, there have been people that have lost their motivation to train for whatever reason, and it's, for some it was because they had a kid and the child took up all their free time. Other situation would be the person came in single and then all of a sudden they trained hard, but then once they got involved in a relationship, you don't see them ever again because all their free time goes to that relationship. Other times people, they take on extra finances. They might start training and then all of a sudden they buy a car, and then all their extra finances go towards that car. So there are other reasons as well. And all I could do is just deliver the best service that I can and hope for the best. And there are the maybe 10 or 20% of the students that do stay for the long run, that do have stability in their lives, or do essentially share these cultural traditions or way of life where they enjoy that stability in having a place to go consistently to train, and they've stayed for many years. And a lot of these individuals actually, they don't want to be public. They train in private. But that's part of what the school is here for, is try to teach a different lifestyle, that involves commitment, loyalty, longevity, stability, simplicity. So I've learned to not get down on myself over these things. This is the environment that I was placed in, and I am here to express a different way than what the culture is used to. And I'm thankful to have the stability of the YouTube, of the actual school location, being able to be there for about 10 years. And sometimes people do come back. I might not see them for 2 years, 3 years, and they come back because that stability is there. The structure is there. The business, the school is still there. And I hope to continue to work hard together with the foundation to continue to be here for the people. But this is the culture that we live in. It's a very much changing culture. This school might be considered something like what Blockbuster might used to be, and then they get taken out by Netflix. Because people, fast-paced things of people change. They change with technology. And you have a physical school where people learn from, and then people will be like, well, we could just learn online, you know. And there's always that aspect. You always see businesses that are up just for a few months or even a few years and then they disappear. It's very difficult for any business to survive in this age of society with all this technology. You know, so in order to survive, you need to adapt. You know, and as I've stated in my past videos, I think without the YouTube, it would be very difficult to survive. You know, but when you're able to work with technology, you can use it to your advantage. And that's what I'm doing. You know, is that teachings like this can be on YouTube and people could learn from these teachings at any time of day and anywhere all over the world. It's not something that has to happen directly at that physical location. And just learning to adjust, finding which teachings are best to be taught in person and then which teachings are best to be taught online. And then categorizing each teaching and delivering the teaching as necessary. But I want to thank everybody for all your support out there. We are all truly thankful. And everybody take care.